In 2008, a lot of Korean gangsters flee the Korean police to Southeast Asia. Their favorite destination is Vietnam, for the country's lack of justice. There, they continue their criminal activity and mainly target Korean tourists and businessmen. One day, a Korean business mogul's son is visiting the country to check on a potential investment. He is invited by a broker to meet a potential landlord to develop his resort. Unbeknownst to him, the broker and the so-called landlord are actually Korean criminals who work together. The mogul's son has fallen to a trap set up by Kang and his assistant. Meanwhile in Korea, Ma is a well-known detective. He is the reason why Korean criminals have fled the country. His extensive knowledge of the gangsters, his fighting capabilities, and his honest personality are the reasons why he is relied upon by his colleagues. Even in this case, he receives a big round of applause after defeating a criminal in one punch. Due to his reliability, he is sent to Vietnam with his captain to extradite the broker who has just turned himself in. However, they don't really know the reason, as criminals don't usually turn themselves in unless getting into a very big trouble. After arriving in Vietnam, the two are immediately picked up by the Korean consulate officer. Then, they finally meet the broker. After interrogating him with various techniques, he reveals that he has a problem with his friend who might be looking to kill him. The two set out to the broker's friend's address. However, he is found murdered in his room. Back at the consulate, Ma pretends to let the broker go after telling him that his friend has been murdered. Of course, he is afraid to be the next in line. So, he reveals what business he and his friend have been dealing with Kang the vicious criminal. That day, the mogul's son was kidnapped, but he tried to escape them. He was captured and promised the criminals more money in his apartment. However, Kang came and butchered him in anger. This sparked disagreement between them, and Kang's assistant killed the opposing party. Seeing how brutal they were, the broker and his friend became lapdogs and buried the corpses in a backyard. After fetching additional $200,000 and some gold bars from the mogul's son apartment, Kang still wants more. So, he asks for another $500,000 ransom from the mogul himself. Of course, he fakes it as the mogul's son is already dead. Kang received the money 2 days after, but the broker and his friend ran from him. His friend must have been murdered by Kang afterwards. After getting the bigger picture, Ma orders his team in Korea to look into Kang and the mogul's son. Then, the two visit the backyard where the bodies are buried. After some digging, the bodies are finally found. They notify the local police and they help them excavate it. However, the local police don't like them to step on their jurisdiction and threaten to deport them back to Korea. Then, Ma asks his connection in Vietnam about Kang. Turns out, another Korean gangster has been asked to track Kang down. Meanwhile, some mercenaries are led by the tracker to Kang's address. They are mercenaries hired by the mogul himself to get revenge for his son. In Kang's room, they find the cash and the gold bars. Back to Ma and the captain, they enter a Korean gambling den to meet the tracker. Of course, their visits are unwelcome there. The thugs greatly outnumber Ma and confidently invite him to a fight, but they are no match for him. He even sends them flying with his fist and body slam. After seizing a gun from the gangster, the others finally fear Ma. The tracker reveals everything to him, about the mercenaries and Kang's location. Back in Korea, Ma's team finds that the mogul's son has never been declared as a missing person. They also find that the mogul is filthy rich by lending money to corporations at high interest. After getting the facts together, Ma finally knows that the mercenaries are sent by the mogul. In the meantime, Kang and his assistant are back to his room, where the mercenaries have set up a trap. He notices something is off and sends his assistant to the back entrance. He gets in carefully and enters the bathroom. One of the mercenaries checks up on him, but Kang catches him by surprise and butchers him inside. The mercenaries line up, awaiting for Kang's appearance, but the assistant comes to them from behind and the two pinch them in the middle. And so, the bloodbath begins. The two swing their machetes without remorse and take out the mercenaries one by one. With the two's better fighting skills and crazy nature, they manage to trim down the mercenaries' number despite being stabbed several times. All of their attacks are deadly as they aim for vital points such as necks and abdomens. After some time, all of the mercenaries are taken down. However, Kang can't find his money. From the remaining mercenary, he hears that the mogul is onto him. So, he vows to fly back to Korea and kill him to get his money back. Not long after, Ma and the captain also arrive at Kang's location. As they inspect the room, Kang breaks in looking to kill them too. The captain is slashed on the shoulder, and Ma comes to his rescue. Suddenly, Kang's assistant also joins the fight. With one punch for each of them, Ma breaks the two's defenses and tosses them all over the place. They gang up on Ma, but he manages to land a clean hit on the assistant's face and knocks him down. Suddenly, the captain shoots a warning fire at Kang, and he tries to flee the scene. Ma catches him, but the assistant strangles him from behind. Kang then runs to save himself, leaving his assistant being beaten to a pulp by Ma. Ma and the captain are brought to the hospital afterwards. But, they are detained by the local police. Ma's team back in Korea informs Ma that Kang has kidnapped and killed many tourists in Southeast ASEAN countries. He always asks for ransom, but none of them have made it back. Due to the ruckus they have made, the two are being deported back to Korea. So, Ma sneaks out of the room with the consul's help and meets Kang's assistant. Wanting to get revenge for leaving him, Kang's assistant reveals to Ma that Kang is heading to Korea to kill the Mogul himself. And so, the two depart for Korea immediately. After arriving, Ma visits a gangster he once captured. Ma thinks that Kang will smuggle into Korea, so he is looking for some vessel arriving from China. After some beating, the gangster gives in and informs Ma that a vessel has just arrived at Gangpyeong port. From the port's CCTV footage, they finally find Kang. Kang's arrival is also heard by the Mogul. He hires some more mercenaries to ensure his security. Back at the office, Ma and the captain are nagged by the chief for endangering the diplomatic relationship with Vietnam. The two then explain everything that has happened in Vietnam. Fearing that Seoul will also turn into a bloodbath, the chief gives them 1 week to wrap up the case before they are grounded. Ma and the captain came back to Korea bringing the dead bodies, including the Mogul's sons. The Mogul's wife thanks them for it at the funeral. After some searching, Kang's vehicle is found, but there is no clue about him. Back at the funeral, Kang has hired 2 gangster brothers to assist him in defeating the Mogul. The Mogul has also hired additional guards. Unbeknownst to him, Kang has pretended to be one of his guards. In the elevator, Kang meets the Mogul for the first time. In a split second, Kang and the Mogul's personal guard engage in a deadly fight. The guard is so strong, lifting Kang while strangling him. However, Kang has hidden a knife and stabs him in the neck, before eventually filling his body with holes. Meanwhile in the basement, the brothers catch the rest of the Mogul's guards by surprise. They brutally stab and butcher them numerous times, not letting anyone escape. From the CCTV, Ma's team finds that the Mogul is being kidnapped. They try to stop them but fail, only getting the car type and license number. Some time later, the Mogul's wife receives a video from Kang, asking for ransom money of $2 million. She shows it to the police and asks for their assistance. So, they wait for Kang's call for further instruction while setting up the equipment. The police brief that the money has to be handed over in person, so Kang can be captured. Suddenly, Kang calls the wife. He demands the money to be transferred. With her strong front, the Mogul's wife manages to convince Kang that they should meet in person. Kang agrees and gives her a specific time and place for the transaction tomorrow. He also allows her to be accompanied by 1 driver, as per her request. It is only after the call that she breaks down and cries. Wanting to fool Kang, Ma decides to hire the gangster from earlier as the driver. Kang has never seen him and he is afraid of Ma, making him the perfect candidate. On the other hand, Kang is looking to smuggle out of the country after the transaction tomorrow, so he books 3 tickets for his team. Then, they plan their actions for tomorrow. The next day, the driver picks up the Mogul's wife and her money at her residence, while being watched by the brothers. Unbeknownst to them, they are also being followed by Ma's team who have disguised themselves as civilians. In the meantime, the other member of Ma's team is driving towards Kang's hideout to save the Mogul. After some driving, Kang gives the Mogul's wife a call. He orders her to make a U-turn to root out any pursuers. Not wanting to blow the cover, Ma and the rest of the team now follow the brothers. However, Kang orders her to do another U-turn. Now, it's the first teams once more to follow the brothers. Back to the other member, he finally finds the car which was used to transport the Mogul. However, he is not in the trunk anymore. He goes inside the building and looks around. He finally finds him and wants to bring him outside. Suddenly, Kang sneaks up on him and stabs him 2 times in the abdomen. Luckily, he stops Kang just before the fatal blow. The other officers come in bringing reinforcements, making Kang has to flee the scene. He hastily drives outside and manages to escape. Seeing that the Mogul is safe, the captain orders his team to arrest the brothers. On his way to escape, Kang orders the brothers to abandon the mission and lay low. However, they don't like to be ordered around. Besides, they also want to take the money for themselves. Not wanting to lose the money, Kang also goes to the meeting point to take it for himself. Suddenly, the brothers block the wife's car to get the money. However, The police who have been following them also block them. The wife and the driver flee to a department store. Following them, the brothers then crash into a car. Seeing the chance, the driver stops to take the money for himself. He leaves the mogul's wife to run alone while he drives away with the money. He drives wildly, then stops the car, throwing and rendering one of the brothers in great pain. Then, he drives off with the money. The brother recovers from his pain and fights the police. Luckily, a backup comes. The two then fight him, before throwing him into a car's window, knocking him out. Meanwhile, the mogul's wife is being pursued by the other brother. Ma notices the commotion and runs right away. Ma overpowers the brother, before breaking his arm as he writhes in pain. He then punches him in the chest with his heavy blow. Ma knocks him out with one last punch, before sending him downstairs to be handcuffed by his men. Back to the driver, he is celebrating his win for escaping with the money. Suddenly, Kang crashes into him from behind. Seeing that Kang is onto him, he immediately runs with the money. He rides a taxi and is finally free from Kang. Kang is so mad for the failure that he stabs the two traffic officers that come to him. After some time, the bloodbath in Seoul is finally broadcasted on the news. The police predict that the driver will smuggle out to China. Upon hearing this, Kang goes to the port to capture him. Meanwhile, the driver is booking a ticket to China. The smuggler promises to send his man to a meeting point to pick him up. However, Kang comes and is notified of the plan. The driver waits at the meeting point. Of course, Kang, who is aware of his plan, shows up. The driver is so afraid of Kang and he hands the money over without any fight. Seeing that security is tight, Kang plans to ride a bus and lay low. The driver calls Ma and snitches on Kang to get his revenge. In a tunnel, Ma stops the bus to confront Kang. He politely escorts the rest of the passengers outside. Then, Kang offers to split the money with Ma, but he rejects the offer. Ma then prepares himself for one last fight. And so, the fight that is bound to happen ensues. Ma is slashed once, but he retaliates with a heavy blow to Kang's ribs. For every slash that Ma receives, he returns it with more dangerous punches and kicks to Kang's body. Kang aims for Ma's vital points, but he is no match for him and Ma throws him out the window. He breaks Kang's arm to make him drop his knife off, and the two engage in hand-to-hand combat. Kang kicks Ma viciously, but it has no impact on his heavy steel body. Once more, Ma delivers a punch right onto Kang's left ribs. Despite experiencing pain all over his body, Kang keeps on getting up and becomes more aggressive. Ma sends him flying with his kick, and drags him back. Another heavy punch is thrown to Kang's ribs, but he still fights back with his remaining strength. Finally, Ma slams him into a car and punches him in the face until Kang is knocked unconscious. Meanwhile, the driver is lamenting his misfortune. Ma calls him and promises to capture him afterwards. Turns out, Ma knows the gangsters' nature and sets them up. He recommends the driver to smuggle out to China, and he also deliberately informs Kang of it through the media. Both the driver and Kang have actually fallen into Ma's trap. After the case is wrapped up, the mogul is investigated for hiring mercenaries to kill Kang. Korea and Vietnam also work together to keep the Koreans safe while they are in Vietnam. In the end, Ma, the captain, and the boys, all celebrate with big smiles on their faces for their big success in solving the case. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to help the channel out. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.